Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending today. We're going through this month's webinar is on standards 3.5, 3.6, 5.3 and 5.4. This is basically policies and procedures around fees and refunds and costing fees and making sure that your fees are clear. Credit transfer and the policy and procedure on how we're going to manage credit transfer, and changes to agreed services. Been some minor changes to a few of these with audits that have happened this year compared to last year. So I'm going to be focusing on what those changes are. We're also going to be looking at policies and procedures, some of the forms and the documentation to go with that. Oh, there's one more, USI, I forgot to add that. So there's a USI in there as well. So we'll also be talking about USI and the requirements of USI. So we'll be discussing that today. All right. As previously in our webinars, this webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under Standard 2.2. Following this webinar, you should hold a quality and compliance meeting and include in your minutes that you attended this webinar. So make sure that you keep that up to date with minuting what you are doing at the meeting. I'm just checking, can everybody hear me? If you can you please say something in the chat section? Just making sure that I can be heard. I haven't had any responses yet, so I'm just checking if you can be heard. That's no good. Hi. Okay, Angie said hi. Can you hear me, Angie? Just need a yes or a no. Yes, all clear. Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you. You just sometimes with technology, you never know whether it's going to be working or not. Okay, all right. So you should also review the policies and procedures for these standards in the Q&C manual. You should be reviewing, are we doing this? If not, why not? Do we need to update our policy and procedure, or should we be implementing this throughout our organisation? So as the instructions for when you do a Q&C meeting, you should make sure that you are reviewing the policies and procedures at your next meeting as per the continuous improvement cycle, which was the cycle on that's the cycle on your first slide there. So we're on standard 3.5, 3.6, 5.3 and 5.4. As per the policies and procedures for continuous improvement, you should undertake a review of your policies and procedures. If there's any policies and procedures that need to be updated, you should complete an opportunity for improvement form and put that into your register that you have updated your policies and procedures. You should also review any documentation that relates to this policy and procedure to ensure that they are compliant as well. We're going to be looking at the forms and documentation that relate to these policies and procedures today. So we'll be having a look at that. So basically, by watching this webinar, you've actually done the review, as long as you are following these policies and procedures. So you can just update your minutes, stating that you have completed this. Sorry, I just realised my emails are coming up. I'm just going to turn that off. Okay, all right. So let's get started. So standard 3.5 is credit transfer. So the credit transfer is pretty self-explanatory with credit transfer. It's a pretty simple policy and procedure. The standard actually states the RTO accepts and provides credit to learners for units of competency and or modules unless licensing or regulatory requirements prevent this, where these are evidenced by AQF certification documentation issued by the other RTO or AQF authorised issuing organisation. That means with the national register that we have with our VETMIS reporting and the USI, you can go onto usi.gov.au and verify their qualifications on there as well. So you can also verify the units of competencies that they may have completed, and that's what that means. The AQF authorised issuing organisation is usi.gov.au. An authenticated vet transcript issued by the registrar, so that is by ASQA. So they can also access ASQA and go to the national database and get access to their certificates on there. But it's mainly the USI that you're going to do that. So our credit transfer policy and procedure is in the student handbook. It's also the enrolment agreement form, and in the student handbook it outlines that the student is eligible to apply for credit transfer, and it's on the back of the enrolment form that they can apply for credit transfer as well. You must state that you offer credit transfer, and you must, and this was an issue with TAFE. A lot of TAFE weren't recognising private RTOs, and it's actually one of the main reasons why this policy, this standard actually came, is because TAFE weren't recognising other RTOs. So that's one, but there was also private RTOs who weren't recognising transcripts from other RTOs as well. So if they've completed a nationally recognised unit of competency or qualification with units that are the same, exact same one as you are offering in your qualification. So for example, it might be CHC ECE 003, which is provide care for babies and toddlers, which may have been completed in another course, and they want to get a credit transfer. You are required to provide them with the accessibility to be able to apply for a credit transfer. So we have the process in there. We have a form that the student completes. So we've got a policy and procedure, and we've also got a form, which I'm going to show you shortly. The RTO must cite the original certificates or have a JP signed copy of the certificates before they can process a credit transfer. That's our policy and procedure. Until we really get USI up and going, where you can go onto usi.gov.au to verify qualifications, you won't be able to verify anything older than the last 2 years. So, but it is, if they complete it within the last 2 years, you can go onto usi.gov.au to verify units of competencies completed, and they can apply for credit transfer through there by you verifying on there. The credit transfer policy is also on the back of the student handbook. Enrollment form, sorry. I'm now going to share with you my desktop, and I'm just going to show you the policy and procedure firstly. So we're going to have a look at that. So this is the quality and compliance manual. I'm under standard 3.5, so provide credit for prior studies. So the policy and procedure is basically that we have a credit transfer form that they complete. This is also in the student handbook. That they are to attach an authenticated vet transcript, which the RTO should verify as well. So you should go on to training.gov.au, but also go to usi.gov.au. They're to submit that credit transfer form to the RTO, and then the RTO will get a relevant trainer assessor who holds TAE on their qualifications, and they'll confirm whether the student is eligible for a credit transfer. If the student is eligible, the result of CT, credit transfer, should be applied in the student database, and you need to have that on the certificate. Someone was asking me the other day about results on certificates. One of the requirements, the reasons why you've got to have results on certificate is because it needs to be identified if it was a credit transfer on the certificate, or RPL, might have been an RPL process as well. So if they apply for credit transfer, you need to put it on their certificate. So there might be one unit or a couple of units that they've applied for a full qualification. You need to put it on their certificate that they've done a credit transfer. And authenticated copies should be kept of those, the credit transfer process on the student file. This is the credit transfer form that the student is to complete. So you'll find these in your documents. So the student is to complete this section where they put their name, the date and the course that they're doing, and then the units that they wish to apply for credit transfer. And then the assessor is to complete this section where they actually tick off that the transcript has been checked, that they are eligible for some of the units. The transcript has also been checked, or whether it's eligible or not eligible, so whether they're eligible or not eligible. If the student is not eligible for a unit or units to be recognised for credit transfer, the trainer has to put the reasons why below, and then have a check. This is a checklist of what needs to be done following doing credit transfer. So the unit of competencies are equivalent, and you ought to put comment there. Eligible units have been entered into the database as credit transfer. Student has been notified in writing as to the outcome of the credit transfer, and the trainer has been notified in writing that the student has received credit for eligible student units. So these need to be entered into the database, and then this form should be completed and left on the student, kept on the student file. We also have a reference to credit transfer on the back of the enrolment form. So there's a section here for credit transfer. It just says that the RTO does recognise qualifications and statements of attainment, issue those, and that the student can apply for a credit transfer, and that the procedure is in the student handbook, and that they should go through the procedure in the student handbook. Okay, so we'll just go back to the slides. Okay, right, so that's the credit transfer policy and procedure. Now, at any time, if you have any questions about anything that I'm talking about, please do not hesitate to put your comments in the chat section on the left-hand side there, and I read them as I go through the presentation. So please put your comments on the left-hand side, and then I'll answer your questions as we move along. So if you have any questions about credit transfer, please put them up now. Okay, standard 3.6 is all about the USI, or Student Identifier Scheme. The standard actually states the RTO meets the requirements of the Student Identifier Scheme, including that they verify with the registrar a student identifier has been provided to it by an individual before using the student identifier for any purpose, ensuring that it will not issue any AQS certification documentation to an individual without a USI that has been verified, and ensure that where an exemption applies, it will inform the student prior to the completion of enrolment or commencement of training and assessment, whichever occurs first, that the results of the training will not be accessible through the Commonwealth Register. And we're going to go through what is exemption in here today. Ensuring that the security of the student identifiers and all related documentation under its control, including information stored in the student management system, is secure. So it's making sure all of that information is secure. Okay, so the policy and procedure is in the student handbook, and it outlines the process for the student on how to apply for credit transfer. There's also in there a range of different forms that the students can access as well. The enrolment agreement form includes a disclaimer on the form for collecting the USI. We also have a USI privacy notice. So if you're going to assist the student to obtain a USI, the student should first sign a USI privacy notice. And most students now have a USI, but there may be occasions where you'll still be required to assist the student with getting a USI. So I'm just trying to think, oh yeah, so the USI forms, we've got a range. We've provided you with a whole heap from usi.gov.au. That's all these forms here. We're going to be having a quick squeeze at those today. Also, we have some Vivacity forms. So we have the enrolment agreement form and the USI privacy notice as well. So first of all, let's have a look at the policy and procedure. So we'll be having a look back at the Q&C manual again. Under 3.6 is the USI. We have in here that you will have an ABETNIS compliant database which is also USI compliant, and that the data entered into the database is kept secure. We explain to the student what is USI, so this is the process here, and whether you or not you will need a USI, and the process for enrolment with the USI as well. So all students are required to complete an enrolment agreement form, which includes a section for the student to provide a USI, and the RTO is to verify the USI supplied by the student. So that means you need to go onto your login. So all RTOs must set up their own login on usi.gov.au, and there's this user guide we've provided you, USI Registry System User Guide for RTOs. So in here is actually a user guide on how to set up your own USI register and access to the USI. So we've actually provided that with your documentation. So you should use that for registering on usi.gov.au for your RTO, which is linked to training.gov.au. So all your information is already in there. You just got to make sure you set it up. I also strongly recommend you go to usi.gov.au because there's actually some really good videos on there. So you can actually, that's the USI website there. You can actually go in there and there's all sorts of training videos in there and information that you can access on there about usi.gov.au. There's also some really good videos that you can actually put on your own website as well. They encourage you to do that and use their videos. So there's no restrictions on use of those videos. So you can see there's a few in there and what is a USI and what are the requirements of that. So yeah, you should use that. Okay. We also have on the enrolment agreement form, we have a section in here for you to, so there's a disclaimer that the student gives you permission to access the USI and go onto the usi.gov.au to look them up. There's also a section here where the student can put their USI number. Anything that has the USI number printed must be shredded. So you can scan this and put it in your database or just enter the data into your database. I recommend that you actually scan this enrolment form and put it into your database because you can't keep, or if you do keep access to the USI number, you've got to keep it in a locked cupboard. So you can't have it just sitting on a shelf or anything like that. We also have a section down here that the student signs that says, by signing this document, I also give permission for the RTO to access my unique student identifier for the purpose of my training. So we've got a couple of disclaimers there saying that they can access the documents. We've also got fact sheets that you can give to, so this is the RTO, how you can set up, that you can give to the student that explains to the student how to access their USI. These are all accessible from usi.gov.au. They're not our documents, they're from USI. And there's some more information in here about the unique student identifier as well in there. So yeah, we strongly recommend that you use. These are documents that we provide you throughout the Kickstart package, and it's also, you can also access it on usi.gov.au. So that's the USI forms. I think I've gone through. This is also a poster that you can put up to notify students if they haven't got a USI. Now, you cannot issue a certificate without a USI. They must have one. I will go through what are exemptions are available, but all students must have access, must have a USI for them to get a certificate unless you have an exemption. So you need to be able to advise the students on how to access the USI so that they can have that in place so that you can do the certificate. I'm just waiting for my screen to come back up. Stop sharing the screen. Okay, all right, so we'll go back to my slides. For some silly reason, it just closes the whole slide down. So I'll just jump back in. Okay, so as I said, there are a couple of exemptions from USI. The RTO can apply for an exemption. They have to apply for it. So an RTO may be exempt from issuing a USI or recording results within the USI data space if they meet a certain required criteria. If the RTO is exempt from USI, student details will not be recorded on the USI database or on a vet list. This means that your assessment results will not appear on their authenticated vet transcript or be available via the USI system. Learners are required to sign a declaration to acknowledge this during the enrolment process. So you may have applied for exemption. There was a few RTOs that were only offering first aid. They were able to get exemption to begin with, and then you actually had to apply to get exemption for USI. So if you go on to usi.gov.au, there's actually, and we've actually got it in the Q&C manual on how to apply for exemption. So we've got the student identifier register, and this is the register here, how to apply for individual exemption. So as a RTO, you can go in here and see what it's like, what the process is for applying for USI exemption through here. And that link is in the Q&C manual. So you can go in there and have a look at that if you wish to apply for USI exemption. Student can also apply for USI exemption, in particular if they work for a security services, so military, state police, state or federal police, they can apply for exemption because it could be that we're risking the security of the nation if people are able to access what qualifications and what courses they have done, so they can apply for exemption. In addition, individuals who have a genuine personal objection to being assigned a student identified, they can apply. So that through that link that was there, they can apply through that. If the student is exempt from USI, student details will not be recorded on the USI database and or VETNES. This means that their assessment results will not appear on their authenticated VET transcript or be available on the USI system. Learners are required to sign a declaration during this enrolment process to say that they wish to be exempt. Now we have a privacy notice that they can sign. So this is a USI privacy notice. If you are applying, sorry, I'll just show you my desktop. If you're going to apply for the USI on behalf of the student, we have this USI privacy notice that the student can sign. So you can access through this through Unicorn. This document's in there. So this USI privacy notice is a document that the student signs that says that they give you permission to apply for a USI on their behalf. And the policy and procedure for this is in the student handbook. So if you are assisting the student with applying for a USI, you need to get them to fill this. I'm finding that most people are getting their students to apply for the USI by themselves because it's actually not very hard. And you can just get them onto usi.au. So that's RTOs that are applying. So that this is more exemption here, exemptions for reporting for USI. So if you want to apply for exemption, this is the information here, exemptions for training organisations. So I meant to show that to you before. The other one you can show is students, you can show them here, take them, and what I'm seeing what RTOs are doing is they're just taking them through this process on the computer and getting them to apply for the USI themselves so that you don't have to collect all that evidence. But anything you collect for verifying USI, you need to make sure that you destroy all of that evidence that you collect. So you'll need to get access to information like their driver's license, it might be passport, so you've got to get photo ID and things like that that you'll have to have in place. So yeah, any of that data that you collect or any evidence that you collect, it needs to be kept secure. So that's a requirement. Okay, so any questions about USI, you can please post them now. Now, with regards to USI, more information, go to usi.gov.au. That's the best place to go to get more information. We have hyperlinks through the Q&C manual, so you can have a look at that in the Q&C manual. But there's lots of information in there. We haven't had any issues with USI so far at audit. There hasn't really been anything that's come up with regards to USI on in audits. It's been pretty, other than making sure that you are verifying the USIs, that's the main thing that they're checking at audit. There's not much else really that's been happening with regards to USI. Okay, standard 5.3 is all about course fees, payments and refunds. So where the RTO collects fees from the individual learner, either directly or through a third party, the RTO provides or directs the learner to information prior to enrolment or the commencement of training and assessment, whichever comes first. And they need to specify all relevant fees involved. And what this means is there shouldn't be any surprises. You must be clear and upfront with every single fee that your student will have to pay. Everything. So this is course fees, this is textbooks. If they've got to go on an excursion, you've got to make sure that's clear. You need to make sure that it's clear with every single fee up front. And how that's going to, those fees must be paid to the RTO. And what are your payment terms and conditions, including deposits and refunds? The learner's rights as a consumer, including but not limited to any statutory cooling off period if one applies. And the learner's rights to obtain a refund for services not provided by the RTO in the event of the arrangement being terminated early, or if the RTO fails to provide the agreed services, which that 5.3C2 ties in with standard 5.4. So we'll be having a look at that as well. Okay, so the policy and procedure for this is listed on the back of the enrolment form, in the student handbook, and it's also on the course flyer. So the course flyer also has information that you need to comply with as well. We have a cooling off period in the policy and procedure that's in line with fair trading and the requirements of fair trading. We've also got in our policies and procedures payment plans. Now, it's really important with payment plans that you make it clear and transparent what are your payment plan requirements. If a course fee, our policy and procedure is that you won't charge more than $1,500 prior to course commencement, and that's one of the fee protection requirements, which I'm going to talk a bit about later. If course fees are over $1,500, you will need to have a payment plan in place, which does not include payments of more than $1,500 per instalment, and payments must be evenly distributed over the duration of the course of enrolment that the students enrolled. So the course fees, payments, refunds and certification is a policy and procedure that we have in the Q&C manual, and we also have it on the back of the enrolment form. All fees must be clear and transparent. There mustn't be any surprises. So you can't get 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months into a course and say, right, there's now more fees. You've got to make it clear and transparent prior to course commencement. So you need to think ahead, particularly if you've got like a 2-year course. You need to make sure it's clear and transparent because they're locked into those fees throughout that 2-year period. So if you've set up fees, they're locked into that for 2 years and you cannot change those fees. And you've got to make it clear what all the fees are prior to course commencement. If you add fees following registration, it's actually a non-compliance. You can't actually do that. You need to make sure that all the fees are clear and transparent prior to course commencement. And they need to ensure that the course flyer complies with all course fees that must be paid or any other marketing material that you have. And this information must be provided to the student prior to course commencement. So it's not after, it's not the day after, it's not the day that they've enrolled or commenced the course. So as soon as they've commenced the course, that's it, they're locked in at whatever fees that you've outlined. So you can change it beforehand, but as soon as they've commenced the course, you can't change any of the fees. So it's just best if you just keep it clear and transparent. Okay, so the fee protection policy is under standard 7.3, and this ties in with this policy and procedure. We've gone with, for fee protection, that you will not charge more than $1,500 prior to course commencement. But there are other options. If you want to apply for other ones that you could have, so we've gone with the threshold prepaid fees, which is $1,500. You can also apply through ASQA for an unconditional financial guarantee, but you have to apply and it's quite a process. It's not an easy process and you have to validate how you're going to protect the fees if you are taking fees prior to course commencement or full fees prior to course commencement. So we've gone with the easiest option, which is no more than $1,500 upfront and no more than $1,500 instalments throughout the course. And those $1,500 instalments are spread out over the course. So if you've got a $10,000 course, you can take $1,500 prior to course commencement and then no more than $1,500 spread out over the duration of the course. So you've got to make sure that it's nice and clear what that payment plan is. This has been heavily audited. They have been bringing this up a lot at audit and they want payment plans clear and transparent. They even wanted what week of the course is the fees due. So we used to say 25% prior to course commencement, 25% progress payment 25% into the course, another progress payment 50% through the course, and we also had another progress payment 75% of the course, something like that. Now they want what week is it due. So you should have week 1 is when they start. First progress payment is due on week 4. Next progress payment is due on week 8. So you've got to have it really clear when are those progress payments due. And this has been heavily audited. It's something that they are really coming down on at audit. So more information can be found out about this under standard 7.3 in the Q&C manual. That's all I'm going to go on about with the fee protection policy, because it's not this webinar for today. We're focused on other standards for today. So more policies and procedures include a consumer guarantee. We've written a consumer guarantee that's in line with fair trading requirements, and it meets 5.3b requirements with the learner's rights as a consumer. The guarantee outlines that the services provided by the RTO will be provided with due care, is fit for any specified purpose, express or implied, and provided within a reasonable time frame, when no time frames is set for the training in particular. But you should have a training timetable of when you're going to complete the course. So when you market the course, it should say when the commencement date is and when the completion date is, and it should be really clear that when commencement and completion is, and that you'll deliver within that time frame. Now, what comes outside of that time frame is reassessment requirements, but then that comes under the reassessment policies and procedures. The consequences listed if the guarantee is not met our policy and procedure refers to the complaints and appeals process. So if you do not meet the guarantee requirements, so those above, the student has the right to submit a complaint through the complaints and appeals process. And that's the policy and procedure that you should follow through there. Okay, so we're just going to go back to my desktop and just have a look at some of the forms again and the documents. Okay, so we're under standard 5.3 and 5.4. So standard 5.3, we have an enrolment and selection. I've just realised this wasn't in the Q&C manual. It's on the back of the enrolment form, but it's not on the back. It's not in the Q&C manual. So I'm actually just about to add that. I'm going to be uploading a new Q&C manual, most probably today, with this update in there. There was a couple of minor adjustments that I've just made today as well. So you'll see a new Q&C manual in Unicorn soon, where it will have this added in there. It hasn't come up as a non-compliance. I just realised when I was going through it today, it wasn't in here. So we have an enrolment and selection procedure. So we've said that the student is responsible for notifying the RTO if they have any medical conditions, that they must provide a deposit on enrolment to secure a place. It is the student's responsibility to note the date and time of the location of the course. This also fits in with 5.1 and 5.2, which is providing student information prior to course commencement on their enrolment process. And we're also advising if there's any courses with low enrolments that we may cancel, and that every effort will be made to contact the students and place them into a new course. Requests from the student to transfer or credit their course placement due to changed personal circumstances will be considered, so we've made it fair and equitable there. And if you are unable to complete your course due to changed personal circumstances, so there's things in there about how they can change their enrolment as well. But we've also got in here the course fees, payments and refunds and certification. This policy and procedure is the same as on the back of the student handbook. Now, the thing you've got to be careful here is some of the highlighted things. We've put that there will be an administration of $50. We've also put administration of $150. It depends on if you're doing single units or full qualification. So that is the administration fees. If they pull out, they lose that admin fee. So you need to be aware when you're doing your administration fees on your course flyers. If you change the administration fee on there, you're also going to change the policy and procedure in the Q&C manual, the student handbook, and the enrolment agreement form. So it needs to be clear in there. We reduced it down to $50 because of the single units. A lot of our clients are doing a lot of single units. But if you want, you can charge more for an admin fee, but if you change it, you've got to change it in all of those policies and procedures. If the total course fee is less than $150, then the total of the course is to be paid prior to course commencement. So that's a policy that we've put in. We've also made it clear what certificate reissue fee will be, and that the RTO is responsible for issuing certificates. So that's part of that. We have a cooling off period. So this is in line with their work requirements. So the RTO protects the rights of the learners, including but limited to statutory requirements for cooling off. So this policy and procedure for cooling off was written against the fair trading requirements. So it's that you've got to give them 10 business days. So if they decide they want to withdraw from a course, unless they've already commenced the course, they can't withdraw a course if they've already commenced. if they've registered, and this is very rare, most people don't enrol more than 10 business days prior to course commencement, but if they might have enrolled 2 months before or something like that, they do have a right for a cooling off period. But that cooling off period is waived if they've already commenced the course. Here's where we talk about payment plans. So I've got a structure here for payment plans. So for fees that are more than $1,500, a payment plan will be offered on the course flyer. A deposit to be paid prior to course commencement can be of up to $1,500. This includes a non-refundable administration fee. And we do progress payments. So this is what I was saying, will be 50% of the remaining fees, 25% of the remaining fees. This has been coming up at audit where they actually wanted us to say when were those payment fees due, so what week number. So that will have to be contextualised per client or per course, whatever course you're texturing. How do you want those progress payments and when will they be due? So when are you going to have them due? The RTO, we have a consumer guarantee. This is also written within fair trading requirements. So we have that you provide a consumer guarantee, and if you have not met the consumer guarantee requirements, that they are to go to the complaints and appeals process, and that's how they, if they want to submit a complaint about you not meeting the requirements of the consumer guarantee, that's where they can submit it. I haven't had any issues with this. It's been pretty easygoing. We haven't had anybody this come up in audit or anything like that. Anywhere where, yeah, this is the main one, was the payment plan. That's what's been coming up at audit. But the consumer guarantee, we haven't had any issues with that. So it's been pretty easy, very easy. Okay, so the next one is, so I'm going to stop sharing screen. The next one is changes to agreed services. Now, changes to agreed services, we've had a couple of auditors come up and say that this wasn't tight enough. So we've actually made some major changes, well, a major change to our changes to agreed services process. We've just clarified that a bit more. So Standard 5.4 says where there are any changes to agreed services, the RTO advise the learner as soon as practical, including in relation to any new third-party arrangements or a change in ownership or changes to existing third-party arrangements. So this one they've actually been a bit strict with. We actually had an auditor say, oh, your policy just says, basically reiterates what the standard says, which, you know, I can't understand why that can't be an issue. We've had other auditors who have no problems with that. So we've just refined this a little bit. We're basically saying now that the RTO advises the learner in writing as soon as practical. We might have to put some time frames around that and things like that as well, because I think we're going to have to tighten that up a bit further. So this policy is listed in the student handbook and on the enrolment agreement form. This is the major change we've done. We've actually created this flow chart now for changes to agreed services. So these are 4 different possibilities of the services that may change. And what will be your process as an RTO if there's any changes to these agreed services. So the first one is if there's a change of third party. So you might have a third party arrangement in place where it might be you have someone delivering first aid on your behalf within the course. So if there's a change in that third party, how are you going to notify? So we have that a new agreement is to be drafted with the third party. ASCL will be notified of the third-party arrangement, and students will be notified in writing of the new third-party arrangement, including any conditions and contact details of the new third party. So it could be that you might have a third party who's delivering training on your behalf, training assessment on your behalf. So you need to notify ASCL of any third-party agreements that you have in place. So if anybody's delivering training and assessment on behalf of your RTO using your scope of registration. So that means, it doesn't mean trainers and assessors who are contractors to your RTO. It means another organisation who's delivering training and assessment under your scope of registration. So if there's any changes to third-party arrangements, you need to notify ASCL. Another third-party arrangement may be where I said the first aid. So someone might be delivering first aid on your behalf, or one of your units on behalf. So you may not have the resources to deliver 1 or 2 of the units within your scope of registration. So you have another organisation come in and deliver those units. So I've seen this happen on a number of occasions, in particular for first aid. So I see this quite a bit for first aid. If there's a change of location, so in the instance that you've changed a training venue, so you need to make it clear and transparent to the students prior to course commencement, all of the training locations. So everywhere where the student will be required to go for delivering the course, you need to advise them prior to course commencement, and that must be on the course flyer, and it must be on the training and assessment strategy as well. You need to make it clear to the student prior to course commencement everywhere that the student may need to go to get their training. I had a client in the middle of audit, never told me beforehand, at the audit, decided to tell the auditor that, oh yeah, we're going to do theory here and we're going to do practical over here. We knew nothing about a practical location. That's a non-compliance. To know and have it in your training and assessment strategy now, before you go to audit. So you need to have it clear in your training and assessment strategy, every single location where the student will be required to go, and it also has to be on all the marketing material of where the student will need to go. You can't provide them with, you can't surprise them with a new location once they commence the course, because the student may have chosen the course based on their location and public transport and how they're going to get to that location. So that's where, if there is a change of location, we need to confirm with them in writing where that is going to be. So you need to confirm the details of the new training venue, have a new written agreement for the training venue where you're going to be going, where the students will be going, provide written notification to ASQA of any new training venue. So ASQA must know of all your training sites. So everywhere where you're going to be delivering training, ASQA are to be notified, and you need to advise them of every single site where you will be delivering training. You can complete, if there is a change of delivery site, that you need to complete a change of provider forms with ASQA, and submit that form to ASQA. And that's under another policy and procedure, under standard 8.2, I think it is, or 8.1, advising ASQA of any changes. Confirm in writing to the students of the new location, and also providing them with a map of how to get there. And you'll need to update all your marketing materials as well if you have had a change of venue, so you need to put that on there. It might be that they've had a change of trainer assessor, so in the event of a change of trainer assessor, the following process will be taken. You need to confirm the new trainer assessor is available and able to take on the responsibilities. If possible, arrange a time for the previous trainer and the new trainer to undertake a handover. Advise the new trainer of location, class numbers, current status of course, progress, so they've got an update of where the students are in that course, and confirm in writing to the students of the new trainer and assessor, including when they will be commencing, and reassuring the students that the trainer will be provided with a full handover. So you need to make sure it's clear to the student what their requirements are and who will be looking after them. The last one is change of ownership. So this is under standard 8.1, so there you go, put it in there. In the event of the RTO being taken over by new owners, in accordance with standard 8.1, the policy and process is to be followed. So you finalise sale of shares, complete an ASQA form, notification of material change of event, submit the ASQA form to ASQA within 90 calendar days of the change of ownership, process statements of attainment for all existing students, providing the student with a current status of their course enrolment, and notify students in writing of the change of ownership and the process for ensuring that the students are provided with a copy of their statement of attainment. So this is also in the student handbook and the Q&C manual. So we're just having a look. This is the Q&C manual. The RTO will advise the learner in writing as soon as practical, including in relation to any new third-party arrangements, and that's the process that's in there. It's also on the form. We have a statement here where the RTO, there are any changes to agreed services, that the RTO will advise the student in writing of those changes. We've also got on the back of here, all of 5.3 is on the back of here. We've also got the consumer guarantee cooling off period and the credit transfer policy and procedure in there as well. I just forgot to show you that earlier. So that's the changes to agreed services is in there. I don't think we have any, course flyer, information on the course flyer. So you need to make it clear if you have a payment plan, what that payment plan will be. That needs to be on your course flyer. As I said, we've been having auditors wanting dates of when those payment plans are due. So what week number it's due and things like that. You need to have it clear on there, what are all the course fees prior to course commencement? What are your administration fees? So if it's $50 or $100, we've got that as well. You also need to make it clear, we've got it on the back here, that they can also refer to the student handbook for more information about course fees, payments and refunds and things like that. So they can access all of those in there. And I think that's all the documentation. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's that one is changes to agreed services. So that's our policies and procedures there. We haven't had any questions today, so it's been pretty easy breezy. If you have any questions, please post them now. That's it for today. That's standard 3.5, 3.6, 5.4 and 5.3 and 5.4, I think it is. So we've gone through all of those standards today. Following this meeting, you should review your Q&C minutes. Minute that you watched this webinar, minute that you've reviewed the policies and procedures and reviewed the forms. If you're doing everything that we went through today, it's fine. You just put in your minutes that we're doing everything that's in the policies and procedures. We have reviewed them and we have a better understanding of what that review process is. So that's all up to date. Now, this is your opportunity. We have another 10 minutes left. If you have any questions about anything else that you would like to ask about, it doesn't have to be about these standards. It can be about any of the other standards. If you have any questions about those, you can post them now. Otherwise, that's it for today. We're finished our webinar for today. I'll just go back. What's going to be the next webinar? So the next webinar is in October, and we're going to go through standard 4.1, 5.1, and 5.2. Standard 4.1 is all about your marketing materials, so everything to do with your course flyers and your website, so marketing materials. 5.1 is and 5.2 is the information we provide the student prior to course commencement. So that's course flyers, enrollment agreement form, and student handbook. So we're going to be reviewing what is the information that we're providing the student prior to course commencement. This is also an opportunity for us to go through websites, and actually we have a look at some websites that are doing it wrong and websites that are doing it right, and what are some of the standard things that RTOs make mistakes on with their websites. So we'll be having a look at that. And we'll also be having a look at other marketing material and some of the things that you need to be aware of with your marketing material, what must be on your marketing material, what can't be on your marketing material, and that ties in with standard 5.1 and 5.2. So they tie in quite well with the marketing material. We normally find when we talk about the marketing, it's quite interesting what people are doing or not doing with their marketing. So it should be a good webinar where we're talking about the marketing side. Okay, well, I haven't had any questions, so it looks like everybody understands what we're about the standards that we went through today. So standard 3.5, 3.6, 5.3 and 5.4. Thank you very much for attending today. If you have any further questions or need any assistance, sorry, I got a little bug flying around me, please do not hesitate to get in contact with either your client liaison officer or Angie for membership, and they'll be able to assist you with any further questions. Also refer to your policies and procedures in your Q&C manual, which will give you a much better understanding of what is required of the standards. Thank you very much for attending today. I look forward to catching up with you next time. Thank you. Bye.